Long before you ever step into a spacesuit, the journey begins with a question. What's out there? Most astronauts trace their calling to childhood nights under starry skies, dreams of flying, or reading about space missions in old books. That seed, though small, takes root early. It grows alongside discipline, curiosity, and the belief that anything is possible if you're willing to fight for it. Unlike other professions, becoming an astronaut demands sacrifice before reward. And yet, the dream persists in thousands of hearts, across the globe, beating in rhythm with the stars. Many dreamers will stop at the first hurdle: poor grades, lack of resources, or fear of failure. But those who persist begin to separate themselves. Early, they seek out science, technology, engineering, and math. They read voraciously, immerse themselves in aerospace history, and build a mindset of perseverance. Every failure becomes fuel. Every no becomes a reason to try harder. The path isn't straight, but it is always forward. In these early stages, there are no spaceships. There are only books, mentors, models of rockets built in bedrooms, and stargazing apps. And yet, something magical is already happening. Identity is forming. The child who once pointed at the moon begins to become someone who plans to reach it. Doubt exists, but so does drive. It's a flame that refuses to go out even in the face of overwhelming odds. Behind most astronauts, there's a community that nurtures the dream. Parents who believe, teachers who encourage, friends who share the obsession. In moments of self-doubt, these voices matter. They remind the future astronaut that they're not alone, that others see something extraordinary in them even before. The journey begins. Encouragement becomes a fuel of its own. By the time this dreamer reaches their teenage years, the path has taken shape. Maybe they've joined a robotics club. Maybe they've built a telescope. Maybe they've started running every morning at 5 a.m. to build stamina. They don't yet know it, but these habits are already training them for the greatest adventure of their life. Each choice, each routine, is one small step toward the stars. Some face resistance from the world around them. That's impossible, people say. Only geniuses become astronauts. But the dreamer learns to tune out doubt. They begin to understand that greatness is not born, it's built, one decision at a time. The spark that once flickered now burns like a beacon. The dream no longer feels far. It feels destined. Asterisk, every astronaut was once a student. But not just any student, they were one who went further, stayed longer, and worked harder. Academics matter immensely in this journey. NASA, ESA, and other space agencies look for those with degrees in science, engineering, mathematics, or medicine. So university becomes the next mission. And it's no small step. It's a launch pad for both the mind and soul. You'll find these students in libraries, long after midnight, buried in physics textbooks, calculating escape velocities, and mastering orbital mechanics. Not because they have to, but because they want to. The dream is a daily motivator. It's the reason they say no to parties and yes to lab time. They begin to learn what true focus is and why it's the most powerful fuel on Earth. Obsession becomes discipline. The road is paved with complexity. Thermodynamics, quantum theory, structural engineering, all demanding subjects. But an astronaut must be a polymath, someone who understands systems, adapts quickly, and solves problems under pressure. And the only way to build that mind is through relentless effort. The classroom becomes a training ground for the future cockpit of a spacecraft. But it's not just theory. Great astronauts also master practical skills. They work with their hands. They build prototypes. They test, fail, and rebuild. Every experiment becomes a metaphor. You must be willing to fail 10 times to get one breakthrough. And that's okay, because in space, resilience is not optional. It's survival. Failure is a teacher that demands humility. Through it all, the future astronaut begins to change. Not just in knowledge, but in attitude. They develop calm under pressure. They learn to trust data over emotion. They start to think in systems and see the world as an interconnected machine. This transformation is invisible to outsiders, but it's everything. The mind becomes sharper, more measured, more mission-focused. Networking also plays a role. Future astronauts often connect with professors, researchers, and former space professionals. These mentors provide not just guidance but validation. A nod from someone who's been there becomes the wind beneath their wings. Slowly, the dream starts feeling real. The stars feel closer. Asterisk brains alone won't get you to space. The human body must be just as strong as the mind. Astronaut training pushes physical endurance to the edge. Cardiovascular fitness, core strength, and mobility are all essential. In orbit, the body suffers, muscles weaken, bones lose density. The best way to prepare is to build a body that can take the punishment and recover. Strength must become second nature. Training begins with routines most people associate with elite athletes. Long runs, weightlifting, simulated rescues, swimming in full flight gear. Astronaut candidates are tested not only for strength but also for consistency. Can they perform at peak level after exhaustion? Can they remain calm with adrenaline surging? Every exercise simulates the stress of space. Fatigue is part of the exam. One of the most grueling parts is the centrifuge test. Strapped inside a rotating pod, candidates experience G-forces that press them deep into their seat. Their vision blurs, breath shortens, and consciousness is challenged. This is no ride, it's a trial. And those who pass it earn more than a qualification. They earn trust. The kind of trust that one day a spacecraft might depend on. But fitness is also about health. Astronauts undergo full medical screenings. Heart, lungs, immune system, balance all monitored. Even psychological evaluations matter. Can you handle isolation, confined spaces, the unknown? Astronauts must not only survive alone, they must thrive in silence. Emotional stability is as crucial as muscular endurance. A key element often overlooked is teamwork under stress. Physical drills are done in groups, simulating rescue operations or habitat emergencies. You must move fast, communicate clearly, and think smart. Even when your limbs scream in pain, you can't lose your temper. You can't break under pressure. Space doesn't forgive weakness, it exposes it. Outside the gym, nutrition becomes sacred. Every calorie counts. Every meal becomes fuel for resilience. Future astronauts learn to listen to their bodies, to rest wisely, to repair after exertion. They become not just strong but sustainable. And in this physical transformation, something internal shifts. You begin to believe you're ready for the impossible. Asterisk before astronauts ever leave Earth, they must rehearse every possible situation on the ground. Simulations are the core of astronaut training. Inside mock spacecraft, zero-gravity pools, and high-tech VR chambers, future explorers face scenarios that mimic the dangers of space. These aren't just drills. They're full-blown rehearsals for life-and-death decisions. One mistake could mean a failed mission or worse. Every lever, button, and delay is timed and tested. The Neutral Buoyancy Lab in Houston is one of the most critical training sites. It's a gigantic pool where astronauts, suited in full gear, simulate working in microgravity. Underwater, tasks that take seconds on Earth become slow. Strategic maneuvers. Patience is tested. Endurance is challenged. Communication becomes an art. It's here that astronauts learn the truth. Spacewalks are elegant in video, but brutal in execution. Inside spacecraft mock-ups, everything is learned by repetition. Docking modules, repairing satellites, responding to cabin pressure drops. Each mission has hundreds of protocols, and astronauts must know them all. The goal is to make every action second nature. So when the brain panics, the body remembers. Muscle memory becomes your co-pilot. VR headsets and advanced simulators allow astronauts to experience Mars landings, ISS dockings, and lunar base operations in startling detail. While not physical, these mental rehearsals are just as taxing. Candidates are judged not only on performance, but on decision-making under stress. Simulated emergencies bring out real fear, and those who keep composure are marked as leaders. More than technical ability, simulations teach adaptability. No matter how well you prepare, space will surprise you. Systems fail, tools float away, delays compound. Simulations force you to face this chaos in a controlled environment. The best astronauts don't panic. They breathe, assess, and act. And that mindset, more than any muscle, will save lives. Space is international. Aboard the International Space Station, American, Russian, European, and Japanese astronauts work as one. That unity begins with communication. Astronauts must learn more than engineering. They must learn languages. Russian is mandatory for NASA astronauts. Others may learn Japanese or French. It's not just about politeness. It's about survival. Imagine a critical system failure, and your crewmate speaks only Russian. In that moment, words are life. That's why astronauts spend hundreds of hours learning technical and conversational language. It's humbling. Engineers who once built satellites now struggle with grammar and accents. But this humility is part of becoming a space citizen. You are no longer just representing a country. You're representing humanity. Language training also fosters deep bonds between astronauts. In multilingual settings, laughter emerges from shared confusion. Culture is exchanged. Trust is built. Over time, the crew doesn't just understand each other, they feel connected. This camaraderie becomes crucial in orbit, where tension can build and isolation can grow. A shared joke in another tongue can ease months of pressure. Beyond Russian, astronauts study cross-cultural etiquette, how to resolve conflict diplomatically, how to lead without arrogance, how to respect religious or national customs. Even in these soft skills may seem secondary, but they are vital. Harmony in a small capsule orbiting Earth is not guaranteed. It must be created day by day. Ultimately, language is more than words. It's a mindset. Learning to communicate in someone else's way teaches patience, empathy, and adaptability. And in space, these traits are as essential as oxygen. When astronauts look down at Earth, they don't see borders. They see one planet, and they speak for all of us. Space is not just a test of science, it is a test of the soul. Imagine months in a capsule, away from everyone you love, with no escape, no real-time phone calls, no fresh air. Psychological health becomes one of the most crucial factors in astronaut selection and survival. And it begins with understanding your own mind. NASA and other agencies conduct extensive psychological screenings. They want calm under pressure. Yes, but also emotional balance, adaptability, and strong interpersonal skills. Astronauts undergo isolation chambers, sleep studies, and stress simulations. Even minor reactions are analyzed. How do you respond to boredom, to confrontation, to being misunderstood? Every answer matters. Once selected, the mental training doesn't stop. Astronauts undergo counseling, scenario-based therapy, and mindfulness exercises. They learn breathing techniques, visualization methods, and resilience tools. These aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. In orbit, anxiety cannot be allowed to spiral. Depression cannot go untreated. Emotional equilibrium is mission critical. A strong crew is built on psychological safety. Astronauts train in team dynamics, how to give feedback without ego, how to de-escalate tension, how to support someone struggling. Even jokes are studied. Humor, it turns out, is one of the most powerful tools in space. It relieves stress, bonds crewmates, and reminds you that you're still human even when you're 400 kilometers above Earth. Ultimately, what makes a great astronaut is not just brilliance or strength, it's inner stillness. The ability to remain composed when alarms blare, when you miss home, when silence feels crushing. It's that quiet voice inside saying, I've trained for this. I can handle this. In space, that voice is everything. After years of preparation, only a few are chosen. The astronaut selection panel reviews candidates like mission-critical payloads. Every flaw is noted. Every strength is weighed. This is not just a job offer, it's an invitation into a fraternity that redefines human potential. The moment you're selected, your life changes forever. The call comes quietly. A phone rings. A voice congratulates you. And suddenly, every sacrifice, every missed party, every all-nighter, every injury is worth it. You are no longer just a dreamer. You are an astronaut candidate. The badge you wear now carries the weight of generations of explorers, engineers, and fallen heroes. But selection is just the beginning. Now begins advanced mission training. Everything accelerates. Medical procedures, zero-G drills, spacecraft navigation. You must learn it all in fast. Time becomes precious. Focus sharpens. You begin to think like a mission commander, not just a trainee. And your instructors, many of them former astronauts, push you harder than ever. There is also a shift in identity. Friends see you differently. The media starts calling. Family feels pride and fear. You feel honored, but also responsible. Every mistake could affect your crew, your agency, your nation. The pressure is immense, but so is the privilege. You are part of something bigger. Now, much bigger. In quiet moments, you reflect. The child who once looked at the moon is now preparing to leave Earth. That feeling of awe, of gratitude, of sacred responsibility never leaves. It becomes your anchor. No matter how complex the mission, you carry a simple truth in your heart. I was born for this. Launch day is not just another mission milestone. It is the culmination of a lifetime. Everything has led to this. The suit-up room is silent. Technicians move with reverence. You put on your flight suit like a knight preparing for battle. Every clip, every buckle sacred. You are not scared. You are ready. Transported to the launch pad, you climb the gantry slowly. The rocket looms like a cathedral. Steam hisses. Engineers, salute. The world fades into silence. Inside the capsule, you strap in. Heartbeats sync with checklists. T-10. A lifetime condensed into seconds. You hear your commander's voice. You hear your own breath. The Earth is about to let go. The engines ignite. The ship rumbles. Pressure builds. You are pressed into your seat like clay under a sculptor's hand. And then replace. The sky turns from blue to black. The rumble fades to a hum. Weight disappears. You are floating. You are in space. You are no longer part of Earth. You are looking at it. Tears contemplated. The view is impossible. Earth, round and fragile, glowing in the void. It spins without sound. Clouds swirl like brushstrokes. Continents glow under a thin blue shell. You see your home, your past, your people, small, yet infinite. This is the overview effect. Astronauts speak of it like a spiritual awakening. It changes everything. No words can capture the moment. No photo can do it justice. But in your soul, something opens. Borders vanish. Petty conflicts dissolve. And you understand, for the first time, what it means to be human. Not American. Not Russian. Just Earthling. Just a child of the stars. Life. In space is unlike anything on Earth. In orbit, there is no up or down. Microgravity redefines how you move, eat, sleep, and even think. Every action must be recalibrated. Simple tasks become puzzles: getting dressed, brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom. Your body is confused at first, and your instincts betray you. You float, spin, and drift. Gravity, once constant, is now a memory. Astronauts train for months in zero-gravity simulations to adapt to this new environment. Parabolic flights, often called vomit comets, offer 20 seconds of weightlessness at a time. In those moments, astronauts practice movement control, restraint techniques, and emergency procedures. It's not about floating free. It's about mastering control in a world where nothing holds you down. Every gesture counts. Sleeping in space means strapping yourself inside a sleeping bag, tethered to a wall. Without gravity, you don't lie down. You simply float and close your eyes. The absence of pressure on your body creates a strange sense of detachment, almost like dreaming while awake. Some astronauts find it peaceful. Others find it eerie. But eventually, your mind accepts this new normal. Eating becomes an experiment. Liquids float, crumbs scatter, and smells behave oddly. Food is packaged carefully and consumed slowly to prevent messes or contamination. Salt comes in liquid form. Coffee is drunk from pouches. Yet the camaraderie of shared meals remains a comfort and anchor to Earth in a weightless world. Around the table, laughter still echoes. One of the biggest challenges in space is hygiene. There are no showers. Instead, astronauts use rinseless wipes, Norins shampoos, and air filters. Water must be recycled and preserved. Waste systems are advanced, but require precision. Every drop, every process, is carefully engineered. There's no room for error or excess. Cleanliness becomes a discipline. Living in microgravity also reveals the human body's dependence on Earth's pull. Over time, astronauts experience fluid shifts, facial puffiness, muscle loss, and bone thinning. Exercise becomes mandatory hours per day to maintain strength. Treadmills, resistance machines, and cycling devices are built for weightlessness. Sweat floats, so ventilation is critical. You learn to respect your physiology in new ways. Despite all challenges, living in space offers a magical rhythm. Watching the sun rise every 90 minutes, sleeping beneath stars untouched by atmosphere, floating through modules like a dancer in slow motion. Eventually you stop missing gravity. You begin to love this quiet ballet among the stars. And in this strange, serene place, you start to feel at home. The International Space Station is more than a spacecraft. It's a laboratory of the future. Astronauts are not just travelers. They are scientists conducting groundbreaking research. In microgravity, they explore questions Earth cannot answer. How do cells grow without gravity? How does fire behave? Can we grow food in orbit? Each experiment brings humanity one step closer to space colonization. Astronauts work with researchers from around the world. Every hour is scheduled. Lab gloves are worn. Fluids are injected into growth chambers. Mice float in habitat modules. Plants twist in new directions. These small, quiet miracles could lead to better medicines, cleaner energy, or longer human life. Discovery doesn't need applause, it thrives in silence. Microgravity reveals the hidden forces behind biology and physics. Proteins crystallize differently. Fluids form perfect spheres. Combustion slows. Engineers use these findings to design better materials and fuels. Doctors study astronaut health to improve treatments for osteoporosis, muscle degeneration, and immune disorders. What happens in space often returns to Earth transformed. Precision is everything. A single misstep can ruin an experiment. Astronauts receive detailed protocols and must follow them with near-perfect timing. They log every change, capture data, and troubleshoot when variables shift. In space, you can't call a technician. You are the technician. Adaptability is the most valuable tool. Onboard communication with Earth remains vital. Mission control and science teams monitor each experiment in real time. Video calls, data packets, and emails keep the dialogue constant. You're never alone in your work. Every click, every test tube, connects you to a global team cheering for your success. Space research is not isolated, it's deeply collaborative. Even in the intensity of science, wonder persists. Watching a flame burn in a floating orb of oxygen. Seeing plant roots stretch into the void. Observing human blood cells change shape. These are not just academic moments, they are spiritual ones. You begin to see the divine intricacy of nature in every floating drop. Each experiment adds to a growing legacy. The ISS is a temple of learning, a floating cathedral of curiosity, and every astronaut becomes a priest of knowledge, sacrificing comfort to light new paths. When you return to Earth, you carry not just results, but revelations. The universe is not silent, it speaks through science. Asterisk, no part of astronaut life compares to the spacewalk. It is the pinnacle of training, courage, and awe. Wearing a suit that acts as your own miniature spacecraft, you step into the void, literally floating outside the ship, tethered only by a cord. Behind you, the station hums with life. Ahead, infinity stretches in silence. It is both terrifying and transcendent. Preparation takes years. Spacewalk training includes underwater simulations, VR modules, and zero-G rehearsal. Every bolt, every panel, every wire you might encounter must be studied in advance. Suits are customized, gloves are engineered for dexterity, and oxygen systems are tested to perfection. You don't just walk in space. You earn it, inch by inch. Suiting up is a sacred ritual. You slide into the pressure suit, lock the helmet, check valves, test microphones. The airlock hisses, lights flash. Then the hatch opens. Suddenly, your world becomes stars, shadows, and the slow spinning Earth. Your breathing sounds like a drumbeat in your helmet. Every movement is deliberate. Every grip, vital dot working in space is physically brutal. The suit is stiff. Your muscles ache. Every action requires force. You move slowly, always anchored, always alert. Tools must be secured. Procedures must be memorized. And all the while, the Earth rotates beneath you, a living canvas of cloud and color. No painting can capture the scale. No camera can capture the feeling. But danger is real. A torn glove, a drifting tether, a sudden micrometeorite space is not forgiving. Astronauts rehearse contingencies obsessively. If something goes wrong, you have seconds to respond. And yet, in that high-risk ballet, there is peace. Floating in silence, you realize how fragile and how sacred life truly is. For some, a spacewalk is a spiritual awakening. You feel suspended between worlds. You're not fully human anymore, but not yet divine. You are a bridge, a witness, an emissary. Seeing Earth from that vantage point changes your heart. You no longer want to conquer space. You want to protect it, honor it. Returning through the airlock feels like rebirth. Suit off, eyes wide. You look at your crewmates, and they understand without words. You did it. You faced the abyss and returned. Not untouched, but transformed. You are no longer just an astronaut. You are a space walker. Though floating in orbit, astronauts are never truly alone. Communication with Earth continues daily. Video messages, emails, scheduled calls with family, all lifelines to humanity below. These moments of connection offer joy, comfort, and healing. A familiar voice, a laugh from your child, a message from a friend, they keep your spirit anchored while your body soars. The delay in signals reminds you of distance. Conversations aren't instant. Emotions must travel through bandwidth. Sometimes birthdays are missed. Holidays pass silently. And yet the messages carry deep meaning. A simple "we miss you" or a picture of your home can make a weightless heart feel heavy with love. These are sacred transmissions. Astronauts also engage with classrooms, students, and media. Live broadcasts from space inspire millions. Children ask questions. Reporters marvel at the view. The astronaut becomes not just a scientist, but a storyteller, sharing the miracle of orbit with those who can only dream of it. Outreach is not a duty, it's a calling. Crew members often write journals, take photos, or record voice logs. These private reflections are later shared with historians, artists, and space agencies. Documenting the emotional landscape of orbit is as important as the scientific one. Future astronauts will read these words and feel less alone. Legacy, in space, is built one story at a time. Some astronauts bring sacred items across: a photo, a prayer book. Others create rituals, watching Earth at dawn, listening to music, reciting poetry. These acts ground the soul. In the vastness of space, you crave symbols of meaning. And so, orbit becomes not just a scientific frontier, but a spiritual sanctuary. Technology allows even more intimacy now. Earth viewing cameras, social media updates, video diaries. The world watches with you. You become a symbol of hope, of curiosity, of human potential. And with that visibility comes responsibility. Every word matters. Every moment shared becomes part of humanity's collective dream. When connection is lost, even for minutes, you feel it. Silence becomes heavier. The need for Earth's voice becomes clear, because in space, despite the view, what you miss most isn't gravity or comfort, it's presence. The heartbeat of another, the echo of home. Earth is not just where you came from, it's who you are. Space is breathtaking but never safe. Aboard the station, astronauts train constantly for emergencies. Fires, toxic leaks, depressurization, equipment failure. There is number 911 in orbit. No exit doors. Your survival depends on precision, speed, and calm. Drills are routine. Protocols are memorized. Every crew member has a role. There's no room for panic, only action. The alarm sounds. Red lights flash. You float to your assigned station. You check readings, report to command, assist others. Your body wants to race. Your heart pounds. But you've trained for this. You focus, you breathe. Every second matters. Every response. must be flawless. Mistakes can cost lives or the entire mission. Fire in space is especially terrifying. Flames behave unpredictably in microgravity. They float, they curl, they consume air quickly. Suppression systems are in place, but you must react fast. Sealing compartments, removing oxygen, extinguishing hotspots. It's a choreographed response. Born from hundreds of hours of simulation, fire doesn't just burn, it betrays. Another danger is pressure loss. A micrometeorite strike or equipment failure can breach the hull. Astronauts must seal leaks, dan oxygen, and retreat to safety zones. You learn to detect the hiss of escaping air, the shiver of the walls. There is no outside help. You are the first responder, the medic, the commander. Medical emergencies also occur. Illness, injury, even psychological breakdowns. Every astronaut is trained in emergency medicine. CPR, injections, stitches, defibrillation must be done in zero gravity. Medical kits float, patients drift, precision becomes prayer. You don't just save crewmates, you save family. After every emergency drill or real event there is a debrief. What worked? What failed? How do we improve? The team gathers, sometimes silent, sometimes shaken, but always committed. Space demands humility. Even success feels temporary. You survived, but you remain alert, because space never sleeps. These moments change you. You understand fragility. You see courage emerge under pressure, and you realize that in the void, what keeps you alive isn't just protocol or training, it's unity. Trust, love. The bond between crewmates becomes sacred. You no longer fly as individuals. You survive as one. The International Space Station is not just a laboratory, it's a maze in orbit. Over 100 meters long, it's a floating habitat of modules, wires, panels, and narrow corridors. Moving through it is like navigating a living machine. You float, rather than walk, pushing gently off the walls with your fingertips. Orientation becomes a learned instinct. Up and down are meaningless here. Each module has a unique function. There's the Destiny Laboratory for us research, the Zvezda for life support, Columbus for European science, and Kibo for Japanese experiments. Navigation involves more than direction, it requires understanding the purpose of every space. You don't just move from point A to B, you move from airlock to science, from engineering to humanity's collective hope. Storage is everywhere, hidden behind panels, tucked in Velcro-sealed containers, and floating in zippered bags. Every item has its place. Losing a tool isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. Even a pen adrift can clog a vent or damage equipment. Astronauts spend hours memorizing where essentials are located. Organization becomes an act of survival. Lighting and noise are constant companions. Fans hum, equipment beeps, lights stay on 24/7. There's no night or day in space, only scheduled sleep. To cope, astronauts create routines. They wear eye masks, use earplugs, and create zones of peace within the buzz. Adapting to this artificial rhythm is one of the hardest parts of ISS life. Despite the technology, living in the ISS requires old cooperation. You share everything: space, food, air, bandwidth. Every conflict must be managed with care. Passive aggression is a risk. Silence can become sharp. That's why crews are trained in conflict resolution, empathy, and diplomacy. A healthy crew is the heartbeat of the station. The ISS is more than a ship, it's a monument to global unity. Built by nations once at war, sustained by daily teamwork, and dedicated to knowledge over conquest. You feel it in every handover, every joint mission, every cross-cultural meal. Here, politics dissolve. What remains is science, humanity, and purpose. Floating through its passageways, you see your reflection in metallic panels. You no longer feel small, you feel woven into something greater. The ISS is your home, your vessel, your cathedral, and the sky, and every hour you spend inside it is a prayer for a better future. Asterisk time and space is both sacred and strange. Orbiting Earth every 90 minutes, astronauts see 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets a day, but they don't live by that rhythm. They follow Coordinated Universal Time, UTC. Every task, every experiment, Every meal is planned down to the minute. Time is not flexible. Here it is the mission's spine. Each astronaut receives a personal schedule from mission control. Wake up at 6 o'clock. Breakfast at 6:30. Maintenance at 7 o'clock. Science at 8 o'clock. Exercise at 10 o'clock. Even restroom breaks are built in. It may sound rigid, but it's freeing. In space, discipline replaces decision fatigue. You don't waste energy choosing what to do next. You focus on doing it well, but space challenges your inner clock. Your body yearns for sunrise and sunset. Melatonin levels fluctuate. Sleep quality suffers. That's why astronauts use lighting systems that mimic Earth's day: blue light in the morning, warm light in the evening. Circadian rhythm becomes a science project one you live every day. Time management also applies to relationships. There are designated moments for communication with family, with mission control, with ground support. You learn to make every conversation count. You listen more. You speak with intention. Even your laughter becomes efficient. Time in orbit teaches you to be present. There are no weekends in space, only lighter duty days. Rest is scheduled, but so are responsibilities. Some astronauts read, others write, draw, or watch Earth through the cupola window. These small rituals become lifelines. They protect mental health, spark creativity, and restore spirits. In space, leisure is medicine. Delays are inevitable. Equipment fails. Data stalls. Plans shift. Astronauts must adjust schedules on the fly without frustration. Adaptability becomes a muscle. You learn to flow, not fight. Time, once a tyrant, becomes a partner. You dance with it rather than chase it. Living by mission time teaches a larger truth. Productivity is not speed, it is intention. Doing one thing with full presence is worth more than multitasking in chaos. In the silence of orbit, where seconds stretch and merge, you discover that time is not just something you spend. It is something you become. Becoming an astronaut is a dream, but it is not free. Behind the all lies sacrifice. Months away from family. Missed birthdays. Children growing up while you orbit. Loved ones watching launches with pride and fear. Every decision to rise comes with the pain of absence. Greatness demands a price. Astronauts often leave behind partners who shoulder everything alone. From parenting to managing homes, they become silent heroes. Communication is limited. Frustrations build. You want to help, to comfort, but you're 400 kilometers away. Love, in space, becomes patient. It becomes a promise more than a presence. Some astronauts carry guilt. Guilt for leaving. Guilt for surviving. Guilt for loving the stars more than stability. Therapy helps. Letters help. Still, the ache lingers. You learn to honor it, not hide from it. Pain, when accepted, becomes purpose. You fly for those who stay grounded. Isolation affects friendships too. The world keeps moving. News reaches you late. Relationships shift. Some grow distant. Some deepen. In the silence of orbit, you learn who truly waits. And you learn who fades. This grief is quiet, but it is real. You don't orbit alone, but you return changed. Emotion is not weakness. It is part of the mission. That's why astronauts are trained in emotional intelligence. How to check in with crewmates. How to express pain without blame. How to celebrate small joys in confined spaces. Empathy becomes a tool more vital than any wrench. And then there's the fear of malfunction, of disaster, of never coming back. You carry it like a second skin, but you learn not to fear fear. You breathe through it. You respect it. It sharpens your focus. Fear reminds you, you are alive. And that is beautiful. Every tear, every doubt, every lonely night becomes part of your journey. Greatness is not absence of emotion, it is emotion harnessed. You rise not in spite of the weight you carry, but because of it. You look at Earth, not with regret, but with reverence. You left to serve something higher. Re-entry is not a gentle descent. It's a violent fall. The capsule heats to thousands of degrees. G-forces crush your body. You feel every atom resisting Earth's pull. The silence of orbit gives way to thunder. This is gravity's homecoming and it demands respect. Your body aches. Your mind races. Your heart remembers the stars, parachutes, deploy the craft jerks, alarms blare, you brace for impact, and then thud, dust, silence, you've landed, the hatch opens, light floods in, people cheer, hands reach out, and suddenly, you are human again, fragile, grounded, overwhelmed. You breathe Earth's air like it's gold. You hear birds. You smell soil. You weep, but your body struggles. You can't walk straight. Blood rushes to your legs. Your muscles tremble. Doctors surround you. Tests begin. Your training returns. Hydrate. Rest. Move gently. You listen. You obey. Recovery is not defeat. It is your next mission, and it is sacred. Emotion returns in waves. Family runs to you. Hugs feel surreal. Their warmth real. The photos you saw from orbit now hold living, breathing people. You touch their faces like rediscovering art. Words fail, so you cry, you laugh, you whisper, I'm home. But home now feels different. Debriefings begin. Data is analyzed. Media requests flood in. You share your story, but it never feels complete. How do you explain what it feels like to float above the world? To see every border vanish? You try. You speak, but part of your heart still orbits. Some astronauts feel lost after return. Earth feels too loud. Gravity too heavy. Purpose unclear. That's why reintegration programs matter. You get support. You connect with other astronauts. You find new missions, teaching, research, inspiration. Your journey didn't end. It evolved. You look at the sky often. At night you trace the ISS's path. You smile. You remember. And you know, though, your boots are back on Earth. Your soul still floats among the stars. You are both grounded and forever airborne. Becoming an astronaut is more than flying. It's carrying humanity's hopes into the heavens. Every mission, every EVA, every experiment adds to a legacy. You're not just a name on a roster. You are part of a lineage that includes Gagarin, Armstrong, Jemison, Pesquet. You are a thread in the fabric of human history. Legacy is built not in fame, but in impact. The students you inspire, the systems you help test, the courage you model. You speak in classrooms, you write memoirs, you mentor the next generation. Your voice becomes a light in the darkness, guiding others toward the stars. You also become a symbol for your country, for science, for possibility. Your face appears in textbooks, documentaries, murals. You represent not just the explorer, but the dreamer. That responsibility humbles you. It challenges you to live with integrity beyond the mission. And yet, legacy isn't about ego. It's about service. Service to science, to Earth, to peace. You fought gravity not to escape, but to return with wisdom. You saw the world from above. You know how precious, how united, how fragile it is. You speak that truth always, years later, when the suit no longer fits, and your name fades from headlines. Your heart remains full, because you know you were there. You saw the blue marble. You floated in the void. You faced the returned, transformed. That memory is your eternal flame. Astronauts never truly retire. They carry space within them forever. In how they speak, in how they live, in how they dream. They become elders of the cosmos, storytellers of the infinite. Every word they share is a seed in someone else's skyward journey. And so, the cycle continues. One child looks up, one question is asked, one dream is born, and somewhere, in that question, your legacy lives on. Not as a monument, but as a whisper. I can go too. Asterisk, there are moments in space when silence speaks louder than any machine. Floating in the darkness, watching Earth glow below, astronauts often describe a spiritual awakening. It's not about religion, it's about presence. The vastness of space, the fragility of Earth, the quiet hum of life inside a metal shell. These elements invite reflection, reverence, even awe. Some astronauts report a sense of being watched over, not by cameras or mission control, but by something greater, something ancient. Looking into the endless black, you confront your own existence. You ask, who am I? Why am I here? What does it mean that we can leave our planet and live among stars? These are not technical questions, they are spiritual ones. Faith traditions enter the spacecraft in personal ways. A cross, a Star of David, a prayer mat, a scripture tucked inside a suit. Some whisper prayers before launch. Others recite psalms during One may quote a philosopher. Another may simply cry. The soul, when detached from Earth, seeks meaning with new urgency. Orbit strips away distraction and reveals truth thought in the cupola. Looking at Earth, astronauts often fall silent. The view overwhelms language. You see no borders, no conflicts, no divisions, only blue, white, green, only one home. And you realize, we are all one species, one story, one miracle. That awareness changes how you see war, politics, hate. It softens the heart, even as it sharpens the mind. Space also teaches humility. You are not the center of the universe. You are a speck. And yet, you matter. You're part of a crew, a mission, a planet. You're small but essential. This paradox humbles you. It also empowers you. The divine, it seems, is not just in the stars but in your hands, your breath, your will. When astronauts return, they carry this new sense of the sacred. Some become more religious, others become more philosophical, all become more grateful. For air, for grass, for gravity. They walk slower, listen deeper, love harder. Because they know what few know. Earth is not just a rock, it's a sanctuary. And so, space becomes a kind of temple. Not of marble, but of metal and silence. A place where science and spirit meet, where awe replaces arrogance, and where humanity is reborn not by gods but by the courage to look back and say, that is home. No astronaut walks alone. Every spacefarer stands on the shoulders of teachers, trainers, engineers, and pioneers. And when their own journey ends, the duty continues, to train the next. Becoming a mentor is not optional, it's an honor. The new class watches the veterans. With hungry eyes, they ask questions. They imitate, they hope. Experienced astronauts begin sharing everything: mistakes, insights, rituals, how to manage fear, how to lead in silence, how to float without losing direction. These lessons are not in manuals, they are passed through conversation, gestures, presence. The next generation learns not just facts, but posture, attitude, poise, under pressure. Simulators become classrooms, debriefings become sermons, and the old guard becomes storytellers. Not with ego, but with reverence. They remember the first time they saw Earth, the first failed docking, the first argument in orbit. These memories become maps. They guide rookies toward maturity, not just technically, but emotionally. Training also evolves. Technology changes, virtual reality improves, new spacecraft require new procedures. But one truth remains: character matters more than skill. So, mentors look for quiet courage, for curiosity, for kindness. These traits predict survival better than IQ. You can teach tools but not temperament. Some astronauts teach in universities. Others advise private space companies. Some write books. Others vanish into silence, leaving their wisdom in archived footage. But their legacy flows forward. The ones they trained will train others. The chain never breaks. Because space is not about one person, it's about continuity. The next generation is diverse. Different genders, races, backgrounds. This is by design. Space should reflect all of Earth, not just the elite. Mentors fight for inclusion. They open doors. They defend those once excluded. Because they know the stars belong to everyone. To train is to love. It is to pour your fire into another without losing your flame. Astronauts who train others extend their mission. They multiply their impact. And one day, watching a rookie launch, they smile not with envy, but with peace. The torch has passed. Space is no longer the realm of governments alone. In recent years, private companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic have changed the game. What was once a bureaucratic dream is now an entrepreneurial race. Rockets are being built faster, cheaper, smarter. The stars are opening. Tourists, scientists, and civilians. Astronauts view this shift with curiosity and caution. Some embrace it, joining companies as advisors or pilots. Others worry about safety, ethics, or environmental cost. but all agree the new frontier is here. And it's not just about reaching orbites, about democratizing access, about letting humanity, not just government, step into the cosmos. Private spaceflight brings innovation, reusable boosters, automated capsules, AI-controlled docking. These changes make missions more frequent, more flexible, but they also bring new challenges. Regulation, responsibility, training standards. The line between astronaut and passenger blurs. What defines spaceflight now? Time in orbit, tasks performed, risk endured. Training for private missions varies. Some last weeks, others just days. Veterans fear corners being cut. They urge caution. Respect for space must remain sacred. Even with shorter flights, the danger remains. Rockets explode, orbits drift. The vacuum is indifferent to money or fame. You don't buy safety, you train for it. Yet there is hope in this new era. Children, see people like them, ordinary, not elite, riding rockets. That inspires, that lifts, the dream spreads. And with it, a new kind of astronaut is born. The civilian with courage, the teacher in orbit, the artist painting Earth from above. Veterans know the future can't be stopped, so they guide it. They speak at conferences, consult on capsule design, mentor new flyers. They ensure that space remains not just accessible but honorable, that we don't rush upward without remembering the lessons carved in fire and silence. This chapter of spaceflight is unwritten. It holds risks and miracles. But one thing is clear: the sky is no longer the limit. It is the starting line, and the future belongs not to a few but to all. Mars has long haunted human imagination, red, distant, mysterious. But today it is no longer fantasy, as the next objective. Agencies and companies prepare for manned missions. Prototypes are tested, habitats designed, suits tailored, and astronauts train for the longest, most dangerous journey ever attempted by humankind. A trip to Mars will take months. No quick returns, no rescue plans. Astronauts will live in confined spaces, exposed to radiation, separated from Earth by millions of kilometers. Communication will lag by minutes. Delays become normal. Isolation becomes profound. It is not exile for science. Training begins on Earth in deserts, in underwater labs, in Arctic outposts. Astronauts learn to grow food, repair systems, maintain health with no doctor present. They study geology, robotics, botany, because on Mars, survival depends on being more than one thing. You are not just a pilot. You are a scientist, a mechanic, a farmer, a medic. Mars also tests psychology. How do you handle conflict when you can't go home? How do you sustain morale when Earth is a dot in the sky? Astronauts rehearse these questions. They learn group dynamics, self-care, even art therapy. Emotional survival is as important as oxygen. The risk is enormous. One crack in a suit, one software glitch, one medical crisis disaster. Yet the reward is equally great. To step on another planet, to write a new chapter of human history, to say, we were here. That dream fuels every test, every trial. Mars calls in. Some answer. No one knows who will be first. But we know. They will be trained not just in science but in soul. Because Mars will not be conquered. It must be respected. We go not to dominate, but to learn. Not to escape Earth, but to honor its legacy by carrying it further. One day, children will read about those first Martians, their names, their steps, their words. And they will dream not just of Mars, but of beyond Jupiter. Titan, the stars. Mars is not the destination. It is the doorway. Asterisk after space. Earth never looks the same. Its colors seem sharper. It sounds sweeter. Gravity feels heavy but also comforting. You notice things you once ignored. The smell of rain, the weight of a hug, the rustle of trees. You see with astronaut eyes, grateful, humbled, awake. Former astronauts often become Earth's fiercest advocates. They fight for climate action, for peace, for education. Because they've seen the planet without borders. They know its fragility. They've watched it spin alone in darkness. They return not just as heroes but as stewards. Some create foundations. Others write books. Many simply speak at schools, at summits, at parliaments. Their message is urgent. Protect this planet, respect its limits, embrace its beauty. Because Earth is not guaranteed, it is gifted, and we must earn it. Everyday astronauts also change personally. Some leave their careers, others chase new dreams. Many spend more time with family, with art, with nature. Their pace slows, their heart opens. They become more human, not less. Space strips away ego and leaves clarity. Earth reimagined is not smaller, it's more sacred. It is not something to leave behind, but to fight for. Spaceflight teaches us that progress without compassion is hollow. Technology without wisdom is dangerous. Only when we see Earth from afar do we realize how rare, how precious, how miraculous it is. And so, the final mission of an astronaut begins, to help others see what they saw, through words, through action, through example, to be a mirror, a guide, a reminder that we are one people, one planet, one chance. You don't need a rocket to gain this vision. Just a little silence, a little wonder, a little willingness to look up and then look within. Asterisk, even after returning to Earth, your body still thinks it's in space. It remembers the floating. It resists gravity. You reach for objects without realizing you're expecting them to hover. You wake in the middle of the night, expecting to drift back to sleep. Your muscles ache in strange ways. Recovery is slow and revealing. Bone density takes months to rebuild. Muscles atrophy faster than expected. The vestibular system, your inner balance struggles. Astronauts often stumble, feel dizzy, or nauseated. They walk like toddlers relearning their steps. And yet, this weakness is a sign of strength. It means they left gravitation survived. Medical teams monitor everything: blood, heart, vision, reflexes. Some astronauts suffer long-term effects: blurred vision from fluid pressure, elevated cancer risk from radiation. Others recover fully, but all carry changes, visible or hidden. Their biology tells a story that textbooks can't. This is the cost of touching the heavens. Psychologically, the adjustment is just as intense. The silence of orbit is replaced by noise, the isolation by crowds. Some astronauts retreat, others seek nature. Trees, rivers, stars' earthly beauty becomes sacred. Re-entry is not just physically, it's emotional, and no manual can prepare you fully for it. Friends expect the hero, the icon, but you feel vulnerable, introspective, overwhelmed. You want to talk but don't know how. Space was extraordinary. Earth feels unfamiliar. Some find therapy helpful. Others need time. Slowly, identity stabilizes. You remember, you're still you. Just changed. Despite the hardship, no astronaut regrets it. The suffering is part of the gift. The pain is proof. You were there. You left Earth. You returned. And in between, you lived something eternal. The body remembers, yes, but so does the soul. And in time, both heal. And when they do, a new phase begins. Not of recovery, but of legacy. Because now, the journey isn't about you. It's about others, about sharing the truth you carried back from the edge of space. We are more connected, more beautiful, and more fragile than we ever knew. Space inspires more than science, it stirs the soul. Astronauts often return as artists. They paint, write, compose music. They try to express what words alone cannot. The curve of the Earth, the silence of orbit, the stars so near, yet unreachable. These moments demand expression in artists. Answer: some astronauts sketch in space. Others photograph the Earth with reverence. Cameras float beside them like silent partners. One clicks the shutter at sunrise. Another records a voice journal under starlight. The art is not polished, it's raw, and in its rawness lies its power. It speaks from the soul. Earth, from above, becomes a recurring muse. Blue oceans, gold deserts, green forests, coiled like veins. Cities sparkle like circuits. Lightning dances in clouds. You can't unsee it. You must share it. And so, astronauts exhibit their art in galleries, publish poetry, compose symphonies. Space echoes in their work. Art also becomes therapy, a way to process the overwhelming, to mourn what was lost. to remember what was felt. Many astronauts use brushstrokes instead of speeches. Some retreat into sculpture, others choreograph dances. Inspired by zero gravity, their art speaks not just to audiences, but to themselves. NASA encourages this. So do other agencies. They understand exploration is not just physical. It's emotional, philosophical, creative. And art captures what data can't. The shift in perception, the melting of ego, the rise of awe. These truths belong not to instruments, but to artists. Astronaut art reaches classrooms, museums, digital screens. It sparks wonder in children, reflection in adults. It reminds us that space is not cold. It is alive with mystery, beauty, and the fingerprints of creation. And that those who go there return not just changed, but enlightened in this way. Space becomes not only explored but interpreted, not only charted but felt. The astronauts become not just messengers but mediums, and through their art, the stars speak. Asterisk after spaceflight, astronauts don't retire, they refocus. Many join missions on Earth that feel just as vital. Climate change, education, human rights, health. They become voices for science, for compassion, for unity. Their work shifts from the cosmos to the classroom, from vacuum to village. But the mission never ends. Some work in government, shaping policy, others lead research labs, create educational programs, or advise on planetary defense. Their insights of seeing Earth whole drives their advocacy. They're not interested in conquest. They want cooperation. They saw our shared home from the outside and it changed their priorities forever. Astronauts often support space education for youth. They visit schools, launch STEM initiatives, and mentor students. Their presence ignites belief. A child hears, "I flew in space," and suddenly dares to dream. This ripple effect, multiplied across nations, shapes the next century. Imagination becomes infrastructure. Others focus on the environment. They saw glaciers receding from above, fires burning through forests, ocean pollution clouding the coasts. That view became a vow. They speak at climate summits, lead conservation efforts, and advocate for sustainable technologies. The Earth they saw was beautiful but also wounded. Humanitarian causes also call. Water access, disaster relief, healthcare equity. The logic is simple. If we can survive in space, we can solve problems on Earth. Spaceflight teaches systems thinking, crisis management, teamwork. These skills transfer beautifully. Astronauts don't wait for perfect conditions. They act. Even in tech. They lead, helping design new aircraft, medical devices, energy solutions. Space teaches simplicity under stress. That design philosophy transforms industries. Their influence spreads quietly but deeply. They are no longer pilots of ships, but architects of hope. These earthbound missions are not a step down, they are a return to service. Astronauts don't just leave a legacy in orbit, they root it in soil, in classrooms, in policies, in people, and Earth becomes once again their mission. Throughout history, certain astronauts have defined eras. Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space, carried all of Earth in his smile. Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon with words that echoed through time. Valentina Tereshkova broke barriers. Mae Jemison proved brilliance has no color. Each name, a beacon. Each flight, a revolution. Their courage was more than physical. It was moral. They entered the unknown for all of us. In doing so, they became symbols, not of dominance, but of progress. Their success inspired peace treaties, education programs, and generations of dreamers. Their footprints weren't just on lunar soil but in human hearts. Some died in service. The Challenger crew, Columbia's heroes, Vladimir Komarov, their sacrifice is carved into spaceflight's DNA. Astronauts never forget them. Their names are whispered before launches. Their stories taught to every new candidate. Their memory fuels every mission. Others changed the world after flight. John Glenn became a senator. Chris Hadfield became a communicator. Peggy Whitson broke records quietly, shattering ceilings for women in STEM. Their work on Earth magnified their work in orbit. They became leaders beyond gravity. international astronauts also shine. From Japan's Koichi Wakata to South Africa's Mark Shuttleworth, the roster of spacefarers grows global. Their cultures enrich the space narrative. Their voices expand the human chorus. And with each new mission, the sky becomes less lonely, more inclusive. Future astronauts will follow. Teenagers training today, children drawing rockets on their bedroom walls. Each will carry forward the legacy, not just of flight but of meaning. They'll add their name to the constellation of courage. And those who came before, they'll remain not just in museums or history books, but in the quiet fire of every dreamer who dares to look up. Asterisk, why do we go to space? Not for glory, not for conquest, but for understanding, for perspective, for unity. Space strips away the noise of Earth and shows us what matters. We go to remind ourselves that we are one people, on one planet, with one fragile chance to get it right. We go to learn about physics, biology, time, and ourselves. Microgravity is a microscope, space is a school, and every mission, a lesson. We go to push the limits of knowledge and to prove that those limits can always expand. We go for peace. The ISS is a beacon of cooperation built by enemies turned allies. It floats not in defiance, but in hope. Every shared experiment, every multicultural crew, is proof that humanity can work together when it chooses to. Spaceflight is not a weapon, it is a prayer. We go to dream, to inspire artists, scientists, poets, children, to plant a seed that says maybe I could too. That dream has no border, no language, no restriction. It belongs to every soul who's looked at the stars and whispered, someday, we go to survive. Earth won't last forever. Asteroids, climate collapse, threats are real. Space is our insurance policy. A way to spread, adapt, endure. But survival is not the only reason. We go not just to live but to live better. We go because it changes us. Inside the capsule, outside the station, upon return, we become softer, wiser, braver. We shed prejudice. We find purpose. And we carry it forward, not in rocket fuel but in kindness. And perhaps, most simply, we go because we can. Because the stars are calling. Because the universe is vast. And because deep down, in every human soul, there is a longing to see what lies beyond the edge of home. Asterisk, no one becomes an astronaut alone. Behind every launch is a network of support. Spouses, children, parents, friends. They watch the rocket rise, hearts clenched between pride and fear. Their lives changed too, shaped by absence, by silence, by sacrifice. These families are the unsung, crew-grounded, but deeply involved in every mission. Spouses carry dual burdens, managing home life, and worrying constantly. They become single parents during missions. They field questions from children. They sit by the phone for weekly calls. Their strength is invisible, but essential. Without their love, astronauts could not fly. Every "I'm proud of you" comes wrapped in tears. Children grow up knowing that mom or dad does something extraordinary and dangerous. Some draw rockets. Others ask, when are you coming home? Their innocence holds space together. Astronauts often record bedtime, stories from orbit, send floating video kisses, and whisper, I love you across space. These bonds stretch, but they don't break. Parents, often older, hold silent vigil. They recall the toddler who once played with toy shuttles, now launching the real thing. Their pride is tangled with terror. They attend ceremonies, give media interviews, pray in silence. Their child flies for the world but remains their baby. NASA and other agencies offer counseling and support groups. Families gather, form bonds, share burdens. They celebrate landings together, grieve accidents together. Their community becomes a lifeline. They understand each other in ways outsiders cannot. They don't just survive spaceflight, they endure it. Astronauts never forget this sacrifice. In interviews, they mention their families first. They bring mementos into space: photos, drawings, letters. These become talismans when floating in silence, far from Earth. They glance at a picture and remember why they came. Not for fame but for love. In this way, spaceflight becomes a family mission. The astronaut lifts off, but never alone. Carried by prayers, by promises, by invisible threads that stretch from Earth to stars. When they return, the embrace is not just physical, it's sacred. A reunion of body and soul, of mission and meaning. Astronauts are the face of spaceflight. Mission control is its backbone. In Houston, in Moscow, in Cologne, rows of engineers, scientists, doctors, and specialists monitor every beat of the mission. Their voices are calm, their focus absolute. They live in the shadows but carry the mission with precision and pride. Each person has a role: flight dynamics, life support, navigation, power systems. Each screen glows with data. Each shift runs like clockwork. When astronauts sleep, mission control watches. When systems glitch, they act. They are the safety net, the eyes in the dark, the quiet hands on the controls. Training is relentless. Controllers rehearse every scenario: fire, depressurization, medical emergency. Simulations are intense, immersive, unforgiving. Because in space, hesitation kills. Controllers must make decisions fast, under pressure, with consequences they cannot see but must anticipate. Their language is crisp. Go, no, go, copy that, execute. There's no room for doubt, but beneath the formality is passion. They cheer quietly after launches. They breathe relief at successful dockings. They cry silently after tragedy. Their hearts are in the sky even as their feet stay grounded. Controllers build deep bonds with astronauts. They speak daily, they joke, they support. In critical moments, their voice becomes the only human sound across the void. Astronauts listen for them not just for orders, but for comfort. We're with you means everything when you're drifting over darkness. When missions end, controllers vanish from headlines, but their contribution echoes. Every safe landing, every scientific breakthrough, every moment of OAS enabled. By them, they are the hidden heroes, the invisible crew, the guardians of the dream, and they carry that legacy with humility. No medals, no fame, just another shift, another mission, another chance to whisper across space, "We've got you." Not every mission goes as planned. Rockets explode, modules fail, experiments are lost, and sometimes, lives are too. Spaceflight is unforgiving, and astronauts, though trained, are human. They make mistakes, they feel shame, they carry regret, but in that darkness, they find redemption not through denial, but through growth. Failures begin with a flicker, a missed cue, a wrong calculation, then alarms, sirens, spinning lights. Training kicks in, survival comes first. Later comes the guilt. Could I have acted faster? Should I have done more? These questions haunt. They loop in the silence of post-mission reflection. Debriefings are honest, brutal. Every error is dissected, every action reviewed. There is no ego, only learning. Astronauts take notes on their own failures. They admit what went wrong. They study themselves. Because in space, humility is not weakness, it's protection. Pride can kill. Vulnerability saves. Some astronauts are grounded after mistakes. Others train harder, return stronger. Redemption takes time. It takes mentors, teammates, mission control. It takes choosing not to quit. The hardest mission isn't in orbit, it's inside. To forgive yourself. To rise, scarred but wiser. To fly again, not to escape failure, but to honor it. History remembers failures. Apollo 1, Challenger, Columbia. These were not just accidents. They were turning points. Each changed protocols, improved designs, saved future lives. The astronauts lost are mourned not as martyrs, but as catalysts. Their stories carry weight and warning. Success in space is never clean. It is built on falls, on fear, on facing the edge and not flinching. Redemption is not the absence of error, but the courage to continue. Astronauts understand this. That's why they are respected, not because they never fail, but because they do and still rise. In this way, space teaches one of Earth's greatest truths. Falling is human, rising is divine. The astronaut of tomorrow is being shaped today. They may be in school, building robots. They may be farmers, soldiers, teachers, artists. The mold has expanded. No longer just test pilots or engineers. Astronauts are now translators, doctors, philosophers, because space needs more than brawn, it needs vision. Future missions will go deeper. Mars, Europa, exoplanets. These journeys demand more diversity in skill, in culture, in thought. The new astronaut must solve problems no textbook covers, must lead in silence, must stay calm during years of isolation. They will need empathy as much as expertise. Virtual reality, AI, robotics, all tools of the next explorer. But tools are useless without the human heart. The future astronaut must ask, why am I here? Not just how do I survive? They must be grounded in ethics, in humility, in awe. Because when you walk where no one has walked, to define humanity, training will evolve. Longer missions, mental resilience, interplanetary communication, language skills will expand, diplomacy will become vital. Earth will become a blue dot, not a home. And still, the astronaut must carry its values into the void. Culture, kindness, conscience, packed alongside rations and oxygen. Recruitment is already changing. Agencies seek new minds, new bodies, new dreams. They want thinkers who build bridges, not walls, who ask better questions, who see failure as fuel. Because tomorrow's astronaut is not just a flyer, they are a builder, a witness, a poet with a mission patch. Mentors from today's generation prepare them with stories, with scars, with warnings, and with hope. They say, go further than us, but go wisely. And the future astronaut nods not with arrogance, but with resolve. They know the stars are not a prize, they are a calling, and when they go, we will watch, we will weep, we will whisper, carry us with you, and they will quietly, powerfully, beautifully. Asterisk in orbit. There is no sound in space, but there is sound inside the station. The hum of machines, the whir of fans, the soft click of a crewmate floating past. Astronauts become attuned to this. Mechanical music. It tells them everything. Safety, rhythm, routine. It becomes the heartbeat of their mission. But the most precious sound is Earth's voice, a call from home. A child's laugh through a headset. The words, "We love you," echoing through static. These sounds pierce the metal. The silence, the distance, they wrap around the heart like a tether. They bring gravity not to the body, but to the soul. Astronauts create soundscapes. They bring playlists into space. Music for exercise, for reflection, for courage. One may float while listening to classical symphonies. Another, to rock. The sounds shape their emotions, their focus. A single song can conjure a childhood memory or give strength during fatigue. Earth itself sends whispers. Thunderstorms flashing. Below, aurora dancing silently. Ocean waves churning unseen. Though you can't hear them, you feel them. You sense the planet's music in its movement, in its light. The silence of space makes Earth's beauty deafening. Recordings are made. Audio logs, sound bites for schools, the creak of the station, the laughter of a multinational crew. These are archived, shared, remembered. They remind the world, space is not sterile. It's alive with sound, with feeling, with connection. And when astronauts return, it's the small sounds that move them most. Birds singing, leaves rustling, rain on a window, their footsteps on solid ground. These become symphonies. After months of filtered air and humming systems, the raw music of Earth overwhelms them. The sound of Earth is not just audio, it's memory, love, identity. It is the voice we carry inside when we travel far. It's the lullaby of home, waiting to welcome us back. And in every heartbeat, every breath, we hear it whisper, you belong. Asterisk in space. Sleep is both essential and elusive. There's no sunrise or sunset to guide your rhythm. The body, without gravity's cues, drifts out of sync. Circadian rhythms fade. Some astronauts struggle to rest. Others adapt through ritual mask, music, breathing, stillness. But one thing is certain, sleep in orbit feels otherworldly. Sleeping? Bags are tethered to walls. You zip yourself in, floating upright or sideways, depending on where you dock. There is no mattress, no pillow, no pressure points. Your limbs hover freely. Your body relaxes in unfamiliar ways. It's like sleeping in a dream where nothing holds you down. Lighting systems mimic Earth's cycles. Blue tones in the morning, warm hues at night. These help regulate melatonin and prevent fatigue. But even so, the brain knows it's not on Earth. Alarms, machinery, and background noise persist. Some wear earplugs. Others drift off to the soft hum of life support systems. Dreams take strange forms in orbit. Some dream of floating endlessly. Others revisit Earth family, forests, oceans. A few dream of emergencies, of docking maneuvers, of countdowns. Sleep is where the subconscious speaks. And in space, its voice echoes louder. You wake up not just rested, but reflective. Insomnia can strike, caused by anxiety, temperature shifts, or stress. Astronauts use meditation, audio recordings, or gentle movement to calm themselves. The body may be still, but the mind keeps orbiting. Finding peace becomes part of the mission, because rest is not a luxury, it's survival. Sometimes, astronauts wake just to look at Earth, to see home bathed in moonlight. These quiet awakenings become sacred. You float to the cupola, press your forehead to the glass, and feel awe. Then you return to your sleeping bag, carrying the image of your planet like a lullaby. Sleep in space teaches you that rest is not just about position or comfort. It's about surrender, about trust, about letting go in a place where nothing holds you down, and realizing that peace is not on the ground, but within you. Asterisk orbit grants you something rare on Earth: stillness. Between tasks, between transmissions, between heartbeat and breath, there is space, not just physical, but mental. The mind, untethered from gravity, begins to slow. Thoughts stretch. Time dilates. You begin to notice what you once ignored. In that space, clarity arrives. Old regrets surface. Forgotten dreams return. You remember the faces of people you miss, the books you loved, the words you never said. This introspection is not painful, it's cleansing. Space becomes your therapist, your chapel, your blank page. Astronauts describe this as psychological expansion, a widening of awareness, a softness of ego. You become less reactive, more reflective. You stop trying to control everything. You start listening to yourself, to silence, to the rhythms of the body and machine around you. Many bring journals. They write poems, letters, reflections, not for publication, but for peace. The act of writing in space is different. Words float, ideas deepen. You see yourself from above, your choices, your fears, your hopes. In microgravity, even your inner world becomes weightless. Meditation becomes a daily ritual for some, not formal, not mystical, just breathing, watching thoughts pass. A form of maintenance, like checking oxygen levels. The body floats, the mind settles, and in that stillness, insight emerges, not shouted, whispered. A truth you already knew, now finally heard. This mental spaciousness often leads to emotional breakthroughs. Astronauts cry in private. They laugh without reason. They feel a strange fusion of joy and sorrow. In the vastness of space, your soul stretches. And in that expansion, healing happens, not forced, but welcomed. When you return to Earth, this gift remains. You carry the space between thoughts like a treasure. You pause more, react less. And you know deep down that clarity is not found in noise, but in stillness. And that the greatest discoveries often happen within. Asterisk, there are moments in space that feel like touching the sacred. Not because of technology or triumph, but because something beyond understanding brushes against you. A flash of aurora, a meteor, streak, the sound of your own breath in a helmet while Earth spins below. You don't explain it, you feel it. One astronaut described a spacewalk as a baptism. Another said it felt like being in God's front yard. These metaphors fall short, but they point to a truth. Spaceflight opens the heart, not to a specific religion, but to reverence. To the realization that something holy pulses through the universe. Even atheists report transcendence, a sense of oneness, of being part of a vast, intelligent, living cosmos. They don't call it God, they call it awe, and that's enough, because awe, stripped of doctrine, still transforms. It humbles, it inspires, it awakens. Some astronauts carry rituals, lighting a candle before launch, whispering a prayer, kissing a photo. These acts are anchors, reminders of meaning. In a world of machines and physics, they create space for mystery, and that space becomes a sanctuary. Floating in silence, you feel it. Presence, not a voice, not a vision, just a knowing that life is more than molecules. That love outlives time. That somewhere, somehow, this journey matters. And in that moment, you understand, you were never alone. Not in training, not in orbit, not in doubt. You return changed, less certain, more faithful not to religion, but to wonder. You trust more, you fear less, you see the sacred in people, in forests, in raindrops. Space did not answer your questions, it dissolved them, and left you with a better gift. Communion. To touch the sacred is not to escape life, it is to enter it fully, and to return not with facts but with light. Every mission ends. The flight log closes, the gear is stored, the spacecraft deorbited, but the journey never truly ends. Even years later, you dream of floating. You hear the soft hum of the ISS. You remember the way sunlight cut through the cupola. The mission lives in you. Astronauts often record final transmissions, messages to their younger selves, to future explorers, to Earth. These are not speeches. They are confessions. Honest, raw, grateful. They say things like, "I didn't expect to be so moved," or "I wish I'd loved more before I left," or simply, "Thank you." The return to Earth feels like turning a page. The suit no longer fits, the badge fades, but you speak differently now, walk differently. Your gaze lingers longer. You appreciate the ordinary, the smell of bread, the warmth of skin, the feel of gravity underfoot. You are no longer seeking, you are savoring. You teach, you mentor, you rest. You walk in forests and trace clouds with your fingers. You speak at schools, telling kids, you can go to. Your voice, though quieter, carries authority. You've been to the edgy end, returned with reverence. You no longer chase the stars, you embody them. In private, you sometimes replay recordings, watch old footage, see your younger self in that capsule. You smile, you forgive, you grieve a little. And then you close the laptop hand, go kiss your grandchild, or call an old friend. Because the real mission was never space, it was connection. Your legacy is not the mission patch, it's the light you left in others, the spark you lit, the courage you stirred. And long after your last interview, your voice echoes in someone's heart. Keep going. This final transmission is not an ending, it's a beginning. For others, for dreams, for a world that still looks up and whispers, someday. Asterisk. And so it ends, where it began, with a gaze toward the sky. The journey to space is not just one of science, it is one of soul. We go to escape, to explore, to expand. But we return not as gods but as guardians of Earth, of each other, of the fragile miracle we call life. Earth, from above, is breathtaking. No flags, no walls, just light, shadow, movement. It turns slowly, faithfully, silently. It cradles oceans, forests, cities, and dreams. From orbit it looks perfect. From orbit, it looks vulnerable. And from orbit, it looks like home. The astronaut carries this image forever. In memories, in photos, in stories, but most of all in the way they live. More gently, more gratefully, more fully. The overview effect isn't a moment, it's a transformation. One that continues long after the capsule lands. We may not all go to space, but we can all see as astronauts do. With wonder, with care, with a commitment to protect what we love. We can pause, reflect, choose better. Not because we must, but because we finally see the whole. The stars still call, Mars waits, the moon whispers. But Earth, she remains our first love, our only cradle, our shared miracle. We must rise not to escape her but to become worthy of her. And when the history of spaceflight is written, not just in logs and labs, but in hearts, it will say, humanity looked up, reached out, and remembered who we are. And it will all begin again with one child, one question, one dream. Looking at the stars, and saying softly, I want to see Earth from up there. Asterisk. They trained until their bones ached. floated until the body forgot gravity, and stared at Earth until the heart broke open. But the greatest mission of an astronaut is not reaching space. It's returning changed and returning with a message that reminds us of what we forget in the rush of life, that we are one species on one fragile planet, that we are more than borders, titles, and divisions, that we belong not to nations but to each other. They went to space to explore but came back to protect. They flew to discover but returned to teach. They touched the stars not for glory but to bring light home. It's our turn to live with more awareness, to look at our world not as owners but as caretakers, to dream not only of rockets but of a better Earth. Because when we see through the eyes of those who left the planet, we understand the most powerful truth of all. You don't need to leave Earth to feel how sacred it is. You only need to look at it like an astronaut would. So wherever you are, pause, breathe, look up. The stars are not far. They live inside those who dare to care more deeply about this tiny, beautiful, spinning miracle we call home.